WrestleTalk.
John Moxley once said of CM Punk, fragile mind, fragile ego, fragile body. And unfortunately, there is bad news here, everyone. CM Punk is injured. CM Punk is going to be missing WrestleMania. And it kind of sucks.
What is he made of? Real glass? Cry me a river. I'm actually genuinely quite upset about this.
So is this our Wrestling Observer opening?
Yeah. No, but this is no laughing matter. We must talk about it.
If anyone hasn't heard the opening to Wrestling Observer Radio from the weekend, we were just listening to it in the office. It's it opens with Dave doing the "What do you want to talk about?" But no, really, this is a very serious matter. This is not a laughing matter.
No, yeah, it's one of the quickest about faces I've ever seen.
But I had a similar thing. I was going to make a Cry Me a River joke in my edited review, and I was like, no, do you know what? I'm actually just bummed for the news. Yeah, I'm not going to make that joke.
The jokes are right there, and I think there is a certain section of the internet that will jump on egg on your face, that whole tribalism of you left our door behind, and then also people who didn't want him to be there in the first place back in WWE and all this stuff. It's just rubbish. It's not nice when someone gets injured.
No, I'd imagine the same people who were there laughing when he got injured both times in AEW are like having another chuckle again.
Yeah.
And like, you know, was that a come dine with me thing? What a sad, pathetic life. And
so Jay, I thought, so when you said that, the first thing I thought of was that Welsh woman who put steaks on a plank. And I was like, what's that got to do with anything? I'm serving on a plank. I think it looks nice.
Yeah,
steak.
It was reported. I didn't actually see this. Obviously, I'm off social media these days, so I didn't see the news break yesterday. I just woke up this morning early, train strike, so I had to drive into work today. And
Cry me a river.
Yeah, well, you know, it took me 2 hours down.
That is a nightmare.
Yeah.
You can cry a river.
I left the house at 4:45. It's the only way I can get to London on time.
Yeah.
Stupid London traffic. Anyway, so like I didn't know, and I got in and I loaded up Raw and I watched it, and yeah, pretty much the first thing I see is CM Punk coming out with his arm in a sling, and I was like, oh man.
So you hadn't seen any of the news at all?
I hadn't seen any of the news. That was the first I saw of it, was CM Punk walking out with his arm in a sling, and I just went, oh man, like that's good. And then because I didn't know what the severity of it was either, because I've not seen the news or anything, so I was like, maybe it's another Seth Rollins thing of just like, yeah, he's hurt, but it's okay, everyone. He's got a bit of a hurt wing, but he'll be fine. He'll be back in time for Mania. But no, like, long story short, we'll get into the promo in a second, but Punk came out to announce that I will not be on the card for Elimination Chamber. I will not be on the card for WrestleMania. I will not be here. But I will be back, and there's always next year. Maybe next year I'll main event WrestleMania.
There's something interesting about that being your response as well, though, because I think you could almost hear it in the crowd. There was the music hits, the pop goes wild, and then he walks out and everyone's ready to do a big giant cheer for him, but then they see him with his, as you say, broken wing, and there's almost like a, like, what are we going to do about like, this is sad to look at kind of thing. And I had the news broken to me by one Pete Quinnell when I just happened to log on to social media and see Pete first, pushing for Gunther immediately. And the only thing I could think of was the line,
Pete's right.
Well, like, to quote from Madagascar, well, that's the interesting conversation that I think we'll have lots to talk about, because my first and only thought in that moment was the Madagascar Penguins. You know, like, well, this sucks. It was just sad. I'm sad about it. I think it's a shame when anyone gets injured, especially when they're coming in so hot, when they've just made this massive splash, this massive return. It was gutting when it happened to him in AEW twice.
It's his third injury in 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, conditioning is an important part of this.
Won the world title at AEW and hurt his foot in the process.
Cora Jade having had the exact same thing happen to her.
Yeah, Tegan Nox is another one. Like, she just kept coming in and just kept getting injured and being put out for a while. But yeah, he came into AEW, hurt his foot after winning the world title, and so took some time off, and they had the old interim championship. Came back, they unified the belts with him and Mox, and he tore his tricep in the process. Now, granted, obviously there was the brawl out situation that had him suspended. But then his suspension was up, but he was still injured. He was on the shelf for 9 months. Then he came back to Collision. Obviously, he then left AEW, came back to WWE. In his first televised match, has torn his tricep again.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was on the shelf for 9 months in AEW with the torn tricep, but part of that was he could have come back earlier, but they left him off TV to hype the debut of Collision. So he might not be out for 9 months, but he's going to be off for a good while. And key to that is missing Chamber and missing Mania.
It's interesting that side of it. I almost want to finish off the Punk side of it, the personal side of it, the injury side of it, before getting into the cards and what his future sort of looks like.
Please do, yeah.
Just because there was an element of I tweeted that I thought it was gutting. I was genuinely gutted about it, and I immediately were having people going like, "Well, what do we do for Mania? What do we do for Mania?" And I was like, "Can we let the guy's gear get cold before we start?" Like, we can as fans. They have to get the wheels in motion, but there's almost something about it that was like, just like give it a second. Yeah. I think it felt a little bit too, and there were the other side of it is there have been people writing obituaries almost, basically being like, I think the wheels have fully fallen off. You said you do this as long as the wheels weren't falling off, or until they fall off. I think they've fallen off. He's too gassed. He looks, this, that, and the other. And I'm just sort of like, I'm looking at his age, and I'm looking at the age of other wrestlers that are still going, and realizing that it is a different field than it was. I saw him wrestle at Wembley 6 months ago, and it was great. Like,
best match of the night.
I'm not willing to write CM Punk off because of an injury that happened when Cody Rhodes had a similar injury, or not a similar injury. Cody Rhodes had an injury happen because he lifted weights too hard. Yeah. Like
Randy Orton throw at his shoulder, taking out the rubbish.
Right, these things happen. It's a part and parcel of a physical job. So at least it happened in the ring, I suppose.
I think the only reason people are looking at it from it's because it's the third time in 3 years, and like I think that's what's made this probably a bigger story than it would have been like any other scenario. I guess it is, and it's always when he's on the precipice of going on to do something bigger. It's winning the world title, it's winning the world title a second time, it's going to be the main event of WrestleMania. Like that was the reported plan. It was going to be Cody and Roman and Seth and Punk. And Seth Punk would be Mania Night 1, the main event of Mania Night 1, and Cody and Roman would be the main event of Night 2. And that's now out the window. And I think the Seth promo we get later on in this show feels like a reactionary, we need to perhaps alter the plans that we had somewhat because of Punk's injury, which we'll come into that a little bit, because I think we've both got some thoughts.
Takes.
I think we've got some takes on that promo. But I thought Punk's promo here, because this was just earnest, it was just from the heart, it was really heartfelt, it was just CM Punk just speaking his truth.
He got choked up.
He got choked up because this has been his dream, is to main event WrestleMania. And so he came out here and he was like, look, I don't feel ill will to Cody Rhodes. He was the better man on the night. I hope that he finishes his story at WrestleMania. But okay, here's the deal. I've torn my tricep. Chamber's not on the cards. Mania, it certainly isn't on the cards. But I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me, because there are people who are battling real life things. You talk about this kid that he knows that's battling cancer, and he's like, I'm going to be sitting with him while he deals with his chemo. Like, my friend's a firefighter back in Chicago. Like, these are people who are battling real battles. This is a flesh wound for CM Punk. I'm going to be back better. I'm going to be back stronger. And he was like, I just because I say the best in the world doesn't mean, like, I sometimes lose. I lose more than I win. Did you see me in UFC? But I did UFC, and that was a dream of mine. I was scared to do it, but I did do it. I was scared to come back here after 10 years, but I did do it. And this is just a bump in the road, and I'm an entertainer, and for some reason, you all like me. I keep getting told time and time again that it's not going to happen. I'm not tall enough. I don't have the right haircut. I don't have the right tattoos. I won't be at Mania 40, but there is always next year.
What was that quote? You quoted something. There's always next year. Oh, it was Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago Bears.
It was a sports ball reference.
It's a sports ball thing.
I thought this was a really powerful promo. It was really magic.
I thought it was really great.
I was really moved by it. It was the first thing I did when I woke up this morning, was settle down and watch Raw, and I was just quite genuinely also choked up, because the other thing that I'm thinking about in a lot of this, especially when it comes to the bad faith glee that comes with it, or
I'm seeing it in the live chat at the moment.
It's unfortunately part and parcel of this, Pepsi Phil, like, it's a whole part and parcel of the community. But behind it all is a real human being, and I know that we all know that when he hurt his foot in AEW, it caused a bit of a mental health block for him.
The sort of the stories goes that when he was injured in AEW was the worst time for him because that is when he was just online.
Yeah.
And reading the tweets.
And I'm just hyper aware of that. And there's almost something that it's like, yeah, there's a level of give and take, and yeah, there's a level of, well, you're in the public eye and I'm only a person on the internet. But it speaking as someone who has been on the internet as a presence for 10 years and gets it in our comments and gets it online, it genuinely affects you. It really does a great deal of damage. So it's
just one of the things I'm in therapy for.
There you go. So I feel for him, and I really hope that that's not something that happens this time. I hope that he's, he does see a lot of positives, because I think that in the course of this promo and then what subsequently happens, there are about 12 thoughts going through my mind of things that I could do with CM Punk the second he gets back. I see a lot of, I think what he's brought to WWE, what he did by walking back into WWE, to a WrestleMania season that was probably pretty already planned out, and then suddenly Punk's available, so you sign Punk, and then you change things because you want to fit that in there as well. It almost blew it wide open and made this Royal Rumble something that was, what my actual thoughts on the match itself aside, genuinely really thrilling. How many opportunities there could be from it is Punk. I didn't know whether Punk or Cody was going to win. My reaction, if you go and watch our stream back to Cody getting the win, is a very earnest and genuine response from a Cody Rhodes fan wanting to see him win the Rumble 2 years in a row. I only feel that way because Punk came back and made it possible that he might win. Do you know? So there's a lot of value that Punk has, and I hope that this time he can go off and heal and not be too much part of the online stuff.
I did see someone say, and I think this is really good, go shadow Michaels. Like, just go to Orlando and just shadow Shawn Michaels.
I was like, who's Shadow Michaels? But no, that's a great shadow.
Yeah, but just go and shadow Shawn down to the Performance Center and just do the NXT tapings and stuff. And just, because one of Punk's whole things is I want to essentially work in NXT and work as a producer there and work, almost take over from Shawn Michaels one day. You and I talked about this on the NXT review that we did for Deadline. That's the sort of thing that he should be using this time for, using it as a constructive thing.
I love seeing him interact with Roxanne and Cora Jade. The wrinkle of Cora Jade being a fan of his growing up, and then they get to work together kind of thing is quite lovely. I love seeing his response to Jade. There was a video about Jade Cargill's behind the Rumble. Yeah. And it was nice to see. Huh?
He knows her well.
They
used to work together.
Exactly. So it was really nice to see that. Nice to see him in his training sessions, mixing it up in the Performance Center and things like that. Honestly, the things that you can do to mitigate the downsides, because let's not... Yes, it is but a flesh wound, but it's still pretty damaging.
So yeah,
and it can still take an effect on you. So the things that you can put in place that keep your fire and keep your passion alive, helping a new generation, that's what he loves to do. It's what he wanted to do in AEW, and there was some pushback, and he didn't really know how to take the pushback, and that's where you get that scenario. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
The only thing I took not issue with, but I was in the office on my own watching this show, and I did loudly shout, "Oh, F off," is when he did say, "I was scared to come back here after 10 years to a place I never wanted to leave in the first place." You literally walked out of it. It's not that he got fired, or he got released. He literally walked out on the company because he didn't want to be there anymore.
My pushback to that, and I could completely understand that response, because there was a little part of me that was like, as well. I get that, but I guess my response to that is people contain multitudes, and the idea of I never wanted to leave, but I felt like I had to, so I did, kind of thing. There's a world where he's like, I don't want it to come to this. He works hard, he pushes through things, but it did come to this kind of thing, and that's how I took it in the end. But I can also see that.
Yeah, I can't buy it. I've been on this journey with CM Punk as a CM Punk fan of just I've been here for the last 10 years and I heard what he had to say and I've read all of the interviews. I don't buy this. I never wanted to leave. You literally said I wanted to leave, and then I got fired on my wedding day, and I hate that place. And Paul's a piece of S. Yeah, we've all heard it. There's a lawsuit over it and everything. So yeah, that's the only thing I took slight umbrage with. But overall, it's the news is kind of it's a bummer. It's a real it's annoying and it's sad and kind of disappointing, but hey, like it's a company that's got a lot of top guys that they can build things around. Like we've got Drew came out next, and I thought Drew was fantastic in the follow up to this segment. You've got Gunther just sat there right there, like the Justin Barrasso report, like absolute bobbins though it was, which was quite clearly bobbins from the get go. It's a Justin Barrasso report heading into WrestleMania. Of course, it's utter bobbins. And yet every year it always keeps getting taken seriously. But he had a great pitch in there, which is that Gunther just squashes Seth Rollins, wins the belt, and then goes into Bash at Berlin as World Heavyweight Champion. Great. I'm well on board for that as a plan.
I mean, the very nature of Raw rolls on. Like, it is a bummer that this happened to Punk, but we have got WrestleMania 68 days away. We've got to crack on. This is our, like, for WWE, this is the most important time because certainly while they're still on linear television, this is the period where they don't have competition on Monday nights from football. They can get more eyes. This is their season. The king is dead, long live the king is kind of what they've got. That's the attitude they have to go. They have to crack on. And the pivot took place immediately afterwards. Yeah.
Seeing the people there, it's just like, oh, so people can't change. Like, 2 years ago, he was literally cutting a promo being like, I wanted to leave. I hated sports entertainment.
I see both sides of it. Like, I really do. I do think there is space for rehabilitation. I think there's a space for humility. I think there's a space for...
I think the experience within AEW probably made him reassess some things.
I think so too.
But he's not been open about that.
Yeah.
He is literally
he's legally not allowed.
You can talk about other things. He talked about Hangman Page because he's legally allowed to talk about him.
Yes, yeah.
Called him a peg warmer. He
I mean probably since Brawl In, there's new NDAs, I would imagine.
Don't know that for certain.
Tony hasn't been able to speak on anything. I'm reading it. We're getting away from.
We're getting away from the
I know
point.
What you're saying.
Yes. So yeah, it's an absolute bummer of a news. We could talk about Drew, I suppose, because Drew came out to confront Punk. I thought this was masterful because not only was it great character work for Drew, it sets up Punk's first feud back. If Drew's still there, which going by this, I think he is re-signing.
I've got a pitch for you.
Is that he comes down and they're making overt references like Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee's the new Raw color commentator, by the way. We'll talk about that in a moment. But he was saying like, hey, at Survivor Series when Punk came back, Drew stormed out the building. These are like real life reports. They're now working into storylines, which is a very smart move to do. And Drew came out and Drew felt like he was going to do I've said some bad things about you, but it sucks to hear that you're injured. And he was like, I've said some things about you, and I did mean them. I do think you're bad for this locker room. I do think you're bad for this company. And I meant every word that I said. But I prayed that this was going to happen, and it did.
Oh, Luke.
So I heard the news that you were injured, and I slept like a baby last night.
Oh my God.
so good.
Unbelievable.
And he had this amazing thing where he was talking about like, this is brilliant news because it means that you can't go on to beat Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship and ruin all of the good work that Seth has done with that belt. I can go and do that now, and I'm going to make that belt even better. I'm going to go and live CM Punk's dream and main event WrestleMania again. Oh, it's so great. And Punk got into his face, and he's like, look, when I get back, you're the first person I'm looking for. And they get into a brawl. Drew attacks the arm. Sami Zayn runs down to the safe, and Drew bails.
I mean... what more can you ask for from a segment? Honestly,
so great.
I thought when he came out, it was the music hits, and instead of getting the whole Judgment Day turnaround meme, he literally says, "Not what I had in mind," but okay, there was already a crackle, and then Drew, who has been brilliant and was brilliant in the Royal Rumble, and this show almost had a narrative arc for Drew, like the whole thing, and I will talk about that a lot more when we get to the main event, but there was a smattering of what chants. I would call it a pocket in the audience. It certainly wasn't the whole crowd, which was pretty loud and full that night. But there was an element of the what chants.
They were loud for things they were into, yeah.
Yeah. And then when he says that I prayed for this and it happened, instantly shut that down.
That's right, absolutely. It was so great.
Instantly shut it down. Get everyone right back in. Has me sat forward like this. Just thought it was a bit of magic.
I proper laughed.
It's like because that's such a horrible thing to say.
Yep.
Regardless of how you feel about who he's saying it to.
Yep.
He's gone full heel. I think we saw
great
tonight, including the main event, and we'll talk about it when we get there, the sort of final notch of right, this is monster, evil
Yeah.
Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
Like, sinister Scotsman Drew McIntyre. I loved this.
Absolutely. I thought it was really, really great. I as a segment overall, it was so good. Punk's promo was just, it's true, man. Like, it was true. It's one of the reasons why I think Seth's promo later on in the show is so good, believing the words that you're saying and like speaking truth. And like, I thought that was really emotive, really effective, genuinely was a very emotional promo. And then Drew coming out and turning it into a wrestling angle is just like, that's a lovely little bit of business. I just really, really liked it. And it kind of turned what is a very big negative into a exciting positive that is down the road for you.
Yeah. I've got him. I would like for Drew McIntyre to go to WrestleMania.
You face Seth.
Yeah, probably. I would like Drew McIntyre to win the belt. And I would like his opponent at SummerSlam, if he's well enough to be Punk. I think comes right back right in that main event scene. Whether or not he wins it is a whole different question. But
I think I think he was likely going to win the belt from Seth at Mania.
Probably.
So you could give Drew the belt now, give him a few month run with it, and then Punk comes back and Punk beats him for it.
Yeah, I mean the Gunther argument is strong as well. We'll talk about Gunther when we get to Gunther, but there was just something about this where I saw Punk and Seth, and I thought about Sami at the Rumble yesterday. This was before I knew they were having a match together tonight, and I was just like, I think there's a lot you can do with Drew McIntyre in this role with the belt.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to come on to that in a moment because we'll need to talk about the Seth promo, which is going to come with its own potential problems, I suppose. But we'll come on to that what a little tease, I suppose. But yeah, overall, I thought this was great in turning bad news into, yes, it's bad news, but... And that's something like that sometimes is what you want from a segment like this. And as expected, you have got a bunch of thoughts on this subject, which we'll get into WrestleTalk.com/support. Please do get in your thoughts. We didn't actually do any of the proper intros for this. I'm Luke Owen, DAD. This is Dan Layton. Subscribe to this channel if you've made it this far and haven't already. Give us a little thumbs up. Join the live experience and get your thoughts into WrestleTalk.com/support.
Maybe we'll just, because we forgot that last week as well, maybe we'll just put badges on. Hello, I'm...
Yeah, don't worry, I'll forget to do the poll later as well. AFC Pozon here says, hi lads, hope you're well. Gutted about Punk. I was well up for the Rollins match. Did some digging and have a stat for you. Since his AEW 892 days ago, he is suspended, /fired or injured for 442 days. Exactly 50%. Such a shame. Drew dude, the Drew feud will be hot AF.
That is the silver lining.
Yeah. Ben Valeric, if the original plan was Punk versus Rollins, I'm not too bummed. I could not care less for Rollins. Punk versus Cody versus Drew versus Roman. Now that's interesting. Seth is just bland. He's a great worker who dresses flamboyantly. That's hardly a character. I appreciate Rollins trying to elevate the title, but which Rumble winner in their right mind would challenge him? Go for the biggest star with the record reign. Who will be the real main event of night 2? You'd be an absolute fool to settle for less. Anyway, hope Punk can make it back by SummerSlam, and we get Punk versus Cody for the WWE title. We could do Punk versus Rollins for the B-tier pay-per-view. Sorry, I really don't care about Seth. Meanwhile, Gunther should take the heavyweight title from Rollins.
We're going to just say very loudly, those are the opinions of Ben Valeric, not in case you get it in the neck for saying something about Seth. You're just reading you're just Ron Burgundy.
What was that comment I got last week? Because I'd send it across to you.
You're just a big agenda against Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I know, but it was worded so wonderfully.
So there are some fabulously worded comments that get left on this channel.
That was, oh man, which one
My favorite was someone saying they despise the watch parties because it skews the end of year awards. That word despise was so... lovely.
That's right. It was because I was going to lead with Seth being injured last week, and this person thought that I'd have to assume he did it purposely to make Seth look bad.
Yeah, you're burying Seth Rollins' agenda.
Yes, he's that petty.
Yeah.
This is the same guy who brought over the Seth is not cool sign guy into the studio just to clown on Seth. First off, that was Ollie.
Jungle Boy Luke Petty.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it was Ollie that did that, and second of all, it was on Skype, not in studio.
Yeah. Alas.
Yeah, two wrong facts in one sentence. Annie Madrid.
But, yeah. So to piggyback off Ben's point here, it is a narrative show. You can tell whatever story you want, and as long as you find a justification for it, you can kind of make fans buy it. So,
and also, like, to Ben's point there, it's just like, it's a B-tier belt. It doesn't mean anything. At the end of it, it's just like Gunther should win the belt, though.
So
I mean, we do want someone to have it.
Yeah.
Andy Madrid, I'm now personally in the opinion that Cody losing at 39 was the right decision. Cody wins the 39 as the underdog that year, and it's all about making him 1000% the guy. Cody's Return of the Jedi. Throw this all out the window if he picks Seth. Get better, CM Punk. We'll get onto the Seth promo shortly. Will Campbell says, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Punk as a person, but I'm absolutely gutted for the man. All but guaranteed the main event of night one only for this to happen. The segment was still great, though, and Drew was excellently nasty here. Gigi Baxter said, bad for Punk and wish him a speedy recovery. However, it's actually a blessing in disguise. It would have been 2 years without the women headlining either night, and they've had to pause all Money in the Bank talk to get to Seth versus Punk. Does a WrestleMania cash-in fit with Drew's story? I mean, obviously, we are still running on the assumption that it's not going to be a Seth, whoever Seth faces for the belt. Even if it's Seth Cody, that probably will be the main event of night one.
Yeah.
And Roman versus whoever that will be the main event, which means it'll be yet another year where the women aren't a headline. It'll be a second year in a row.
I feel like it. We'll talk about it when we get to her segment because we get all of them on the show today. It's gotta be Bayley.
Roman Dietrich, look in my eyes. What do you see? A face of pain and misery. But in all seriousness, Punk can't catch a break, and I'm sorry for him. But the possibilities with Drew are now endless. Drew is the best he's ever been in WWE. Give us a dog collar match. Plus, there's now room for Roman versus Rock. And picture this, Cody versus Seth at Mania. Cody wins extremely close. Fireworks, he cries. Suddenly, Priest and Judgment Day with the briefcase. Cash in, brutal beatdown, instant monster heat. Perfect ending for night one. I just enjoyed everything that happened on Raw. And now with even the World Heavyweight Championship was perfectly elevated by just one promo. Plus the main event. OMG. Have a wonderful week, mates. Jam that jam.
I disagree on the cash in. I think let the moment be, personally.
Yeah, there was a moment when Cody came back. Brian Alvarez made this pitch, and I loved this pitch, which is that Cody should win the WWE Championship by a count out. Win it the exact same way that
the dusty finish.
Yeah, and you do that dusty finish. And I was like, oh, that's so beautifully poetic. I think we just got to the point now where I just wanted to win this Megan thing.
I want it to be the most satisfying possible.
Yeah.
And the 3 count is the only way. A tap out maybe as well, but I don't. He doesn't have one. And the other one here I've got is I think to that point of all the possibilities are being endless. Like, I think what part of what they've done with giving him a promo with Seth. That you talk about this last week. It was like, oh, that's the match I want to see. Oh, wait, now the Drew's the match I want to see. Oh, no, wait, now, but Cody's the one I want to see. Because they didn't hold back, they gave us all of them now. He's lurking. He's in a shadow. They've set it all up already. And it's very easy to slot right back in. Feels a bit different.
I think they need to do something with Priest, though.
Oh, yeah, that's well, I mean...
I mean, that is the sort of the one take I have seen that is sort of common across all wrestling fans is that, man, this Priest thing just ain't working right now.
It's because they haven't done anything. Yeah, you're right. He's got till July.
Ajaz Hussein says, hi, Luke and Dan. Hope you're both doing well. I'm a huge Punk fan and hope that he can recover. What do you think of the possibility of it being a work? And he's just doing something heelish, maybe, as he was a physical with Drew and even used his arm to attack him.
Different injuries are different. Like, Cody wrestled a whole match.
Yes. And, yeah, apparently it's 1000% not a work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wrestlers are built different.
I don't see what the point would be.
Yeah, no, we never.
Kevin said, Luke, I made it home safe, despite the 1 hour delay on Eurostar. Dan, you're welcome. Gutted for Punk, but I trust the creative team. They can come up with a great plan. That is from reference to our Survival series that we did live at our Royal Rumble watch party. We did some audience participation, and Kevin gave you a correct answer.
My mind was too blasted by the person who gave me a deeply incorrect answer.
Poor Nikita.
Oh, Nikita, you've gone down in history, my friend. But thank you, Kevin.
Bless Nikita. The Rem Maker. Injury depression is a real thing. I trained in wrestling and because of concussions, I was not able to, and it does suck. But finding a new love in what you can do But finding a new love within what you can't do anymore, whether being permanent or temporary, is the healthiest thing you can do. Punk being out is heartbreaking, but does give a good opportunity for a world title banger with Seth. I know it's face versus Seth, but I'd love to see Sami take on Rollins. Give Sami that moment. Jam that jam. Yeah, I mean, also, the other point I was going to make as well, like, it's horribly poetic that his last match in WWE was the Royal Rumble 2014, in which he got injured. He got a concussion early on and told the doctor, well, told the referee at ringside, I'm finishing this match. And as by report, that's exactly what happened here. He came in, got injured.
That's what wrestlers do.
And then the referee said, do you want help? And he said, no, I'm finishing this match. He's got that mentality about him. He talked about that on that Cabana podcast. The one where he talked about saying he didn't want to be there anymore. Kuzi said, I'm good for Punk. He's made many mistakes and some wild calls. I'm good for Punk. He's made many mistakes, and some would call his injuries karma. But I would never wish harm on another man, especially for something as trivial as wrestling. Hope he can get through it. But now I'm curious. Will Seth still be the main event? Well, that's it. Depends on who it is. I think if it's Cody, yeah. If it's Drew, maybe not. Depends on how heated the feud is going in.
Yeah.
Because that for me is when I come to what should be the main events, if I was picking one, it's whatever your hottest thing is. Sami and Kevin last year should be the main event. It was the hottest thing at the time. It should have been the main event. It was hotter than Rhea versus Flair was, which didn't have particularly great build going in. If Seth and Drew is way better build and is a much hotter feud than Becky Rhea, absolutely. Should be Seth and Drew. But if Becky Rhea is its all-time feud, that should be the main event.
Then Becky should have won the Royal Rumble. We'll talk about it later.
Oh, well, no, Bayley was the right choice. Amy, as a Chicago Cubs fan, I know the pain of saying there's always next year. I really hope next year really does come for Punk. But next year took 100 plus years for the Cubs. Also, Seth made great points with Cody, but sorry, it needs to be Roman. And Golden Knights 84 says, hi, Luke and Prof. Stand by what I said last week about Punk being a hypocrite, and let me be clear. I may not like a wrestler, but I never want to see anyone get injured. To the people enjoying this, you need to get your S together. Sorry, Mod Mother. We'll always apologize to the Mod Mother for our bad language.
You've been worse than me lately.
Yeah, I know, I did. Yeah, and so, I think that's fair. I'm actually going to go this whole show without dropping a bomb at all.
I bet I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, or when you hear it.
Yeah.
or you don't hear it. It'll be more to the point. Right, let's get your thoughts in WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them at the end of the show. Now we're going to recap everything else that happened on this broadcast. So we opened with Jey Uso, Gunther, and Damage Control arriving. Got a big video promo recapping the Rumble. Then we also saw Cody arriving. Announcement that the first hour is commercial free. And our new commentary team of Michael Cole and Pat McAfee.
Oh, no.
Oh, good. It's someone else. Because I get it in the neck for not being the biggest Pat McAfee fan.
I have liked Pat McAfee in the past, but it's almost like since he's gone away and not been around for a while, what it's led to is more of a boys' club. I rewatched the Women's Rumble last night, and because we were doing live reactions, I didn't hear any of the commentary, and the commentary that I did hear was not pleasant. I didn't really like a lot of it. It felt like they were more into talking amongst themselves than they were doing the commentary, and it just kind of frustrates me.
I've only got one Pat note that'll come up later, and yeah, then it's not a big thing. It's just it's a bit that made me laugh of some bad commentary. I think Pat, people got really into Pat when he was doing the SmackDown commentary.
Because he's got a lot of energy, and because he
enjoys
the product, which is what you want from a conduit.
Yeah. But also, I found the Gronk to be annoying, and Pat just reminds me of the Gronk, and it annoys me a little bit. But very good at wrestling.
Very good, yeah.
When he's at his matches, this will be commentary I will try and tune out as much as possible. It's not my favorite commentary duo. And apparently, according to PW Insider, the SmackDown side of things is going to be Corey Graves and Wade Barrett, with Corey Graves moving into play-by-play.
I'm glad that Wade's not getting shafted, and I like Corey Graves as a commentator. That's put me off in the minority, but I think he's really got something. The problem is I find that he straddles the line between play-by-play and color, and that they are two completely different jobs, and they lead to a little bit of confusion when you're watching. It's why when Michael Cole was full heel, that's not what you want from your play-by-play guy. So if this allows him to fully pivot and lead with being the lead announcer play-by-play guy, I'm all for this. I think that has real potential.
Yeah, and we just him just being straight down the line, Corey Graves doing play-by-play, because he can't be doing any of the sort of the heel side of things, because that'd be Wade Barrett's role.
Yeah,
can't have two of them doing it, so it would just be straight play-by-play by Corey Graves.
You shouldn't.
Yeah, you should. Oh, absolutely. You shouldn't. Yeah. That would be the worst commentary possible. Having a heel a heel play-by-play commentator with a heel color commentator. Yeah. That sounds disastrous. Judgment Day, we're watching the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre thing from their Judgment Den. And Rhea was like, well, Rhea says what she says every single week, which is, we need to send a message. And Damian Priest replies, I agree. Messages will be sent. And Finn Balor steps up and was like, I concur. let's do a message. And I'm like, all right, lads, should we have a message, shall we?
It's like the polar opposite to the segment that had just been before. This one felt, where that one was full of like emotion and energy. This one was full of stilted delivery, overdone, overproduced, devastated.
DIY did the West Wing walk and talk to put themselves over ahead of their tag team title match against the Judgment Day, which got well PWG by the end and was real fun. Like it was a standard wrestling match up until a point, but then Gargano got the hot tag, and then it just devolved into this PWG style. Lots of big moves, lots of near falls and stuff. I had a great time with this, and the crowd went really ballistic towards the end of this, particularly when DIY got in the double submission.
Oh my gosh.
And Priest powered up with it, using Ciampa as a move to break up the Gargano escape. And yeah, it was just really great. The crowd chanted, "This is awesome." We got a Razor's Edge and a coup de grace for the win. Very good match. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's a testament to Triple H's commitment of putting out teams, not getting any reaction week 1, not getting any reaction week 2, sort of getting a reaction week 3, but persisting with it. And like, look at them now. People were into DIY from the very get-go. I wish he'd applied that same logic to the women's tag team division, but we'll get to that shortly.
Yeah.
But I think it's a testament to just committing to the bit.
Yeah, I thought they did a great job. I really enjoyed it. I was finding myself very much buying into the nipples. The double submission in particular was one where I was like, oh, so tasty. I thought the climax, for some reason, didn't feel like a climax, but when it was happening, I was like, that's made them look all dominant, and it kind of the point that they were trying to achieve was establishing on the road to WrestleMania Judgment Day as being this dominant force, and I think combined with the match and the beatdown afterwards, I think it worked.
Yeah. So afterwards, the rest of the Judgment Day B team of Dominic and JD McDonough came down, and they brought out R-Truth to apologize to him. And Truth was making jokes about like he's transferred all of Priest's money into crypto, and Priest was like, "Look, Truth, the thing is, this group here is a family." And Truth said, "Oh, I know. You're like my older brother." It's funny because Priest is younger than him. And Finn's like the weird uncle. Just says lots of weird things. And Tom and Nick Mysterio here, well, the less said about him, the better. And JD's like that stepbrother that no one wants to acknowledge. And in the end, the Judgment Day were like, "You're not in the group," and they beat him up. Miz came down to make the save, but the numbers disadvantage worked against the awesome Truth, and the Judgment Day stood tall. And I guess that's your Mania tag title program, is seeing awesome Truth winning the tag belts at WrestleMania.
I like that it got a legit heel reaction. People were quite cross about it, and that really worked for me. I think they're really needing, like I said, to heat the group up, and I thought the whole thing ultimately was effective. I like that Miz was ready to go and come down to save Truth straight away, almost like he'd seen him get called out and was like, right, I'm going to be on the watch here, because how many times have we seen nobody save anybody? Jey Uso allowing Kofi to get beaten up a whole bunch. But yeah, so I thought this was great. I like this a lot.
Chelsea Green and Piper Niven lost to Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark in 2 minutes, although the biggest return of 2024 was on this show when Samantha Irvin said Chelsea Green's name correctly. She's back to doing Chelsea Green, and I was really thrilled by that.
This match could have been longer, but it
could it?
But it unfortunately wasn't allowed because it was commercial free, so they couldn't slip a commercial in the middle of it. So yeah, this annoyed me.
Like literally, the match didn't feel like it got into a second gear. Zoe Stark just hit the Z360 and won. Yeah. And it's almost like Shayna Baszler didn't expect that was the finish. It's almost like she was getting in the ring to do the next series of spots. Because she literally shrugged. Like Zoe Stark wins, and Shayna Baszler getting in the ring goes, all right.
Yeah. It was odd and rubbish, and I didn't like it.
Yeah. So, we now have the other big segment of the show. I think overall, I'd say I've really enjoyed this show. I thought that the wrestling was pretty good. I thought that nothing kind of touched the tag match, but I thought that everything else in it was fine, including the main event, which I thought was fine. But the 2 big talking segments on this show I thought were really great. Obviously, the Punk one at the start, and this one here. And it's a really fascinating segment. I'm very curious to get what people's take on this. So Rhodes comes out for a promo. And, the crowd is chanting, "You deserve it," because he won the Royal Rumble. And Samantha Irvin announced him as the winner of the 2023 and 2024 Royal Rumbles. Cody enjoyed that so much, he got Samantha Irvin to do it again. And he wants to make Mania 40 official. Because at the end of Royal Rumble, he pointed at Roman and said, coming for you, bud. Like that, it's absolutely 100%. I'm going for Roman Reigns. It's all I've been talking about for the past year. Is I'm going to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and I'm going to finish the story, and I'm going to win that championship. Deedly dee, let's make it official. Out comes Seth Rollins. The reaction to Rollins I thought was so interesting at the start of this, because Rollins said, picking Roman is a mistake. I saw you at the Royal Rumble presser, and you said, you're the guy. And I disagree with that. You're not the guy. Roman's not the guy. I'm the guy, and I've got the most important belt in the company. And that was met to mostly indifference. He then said, you shouldn't pick Roman, that's a mistake. You should pick me for WrestleMania. And the crowd chanted, no. Because the match that we've all wanted to see is Cody versus Roman. And so Seth goes on, and he starts to talk about why was this title created in the first place? It's because Roman was never here, and the fans deserve better than that. The fans deserve a championship that is seen on TV. Fans deserve a championship that is defended on house shows. You and I, speaking to him and Cody, we've done all of these house shows together, and who's been the main event of every single one of those? It's been me defending this title. You've seen the work that I put into this in making this belt making this belt the most important belt in WWE. So you have this belt, the workhorse belt, the people's belt, the blue-collar belt, the belt that Dusty Rhodes would have wanted to challenge for. Or you can go for Roman's belt, the belt that's never here, the Hulk Hogan belt. That was a very charged thing to call it, the Hulk Hogan belt. The belt that people politic backstage to get, the Hollywood belt. Why would you want to go for that belt, Cody, when you can come for this one that Dusty Rhodes would have wanted instead? And we could ask Dusty this question, but it's never been about Dusty. It's always been about Cody. And what does Cody want to do? Because this is the biggest choice you'll ever make. And it was such a good promo that this crowd that was indifferent to Seth Rollins saying this was a good title, and a crowd that chanted no when he made the suggestion it should be him versus Cody at WrestleMania, that crowd were so into this, and actually into the idea of Seth versus Cody. A brilliant, brilliant promo by Rollins here in a vacuum. I think it creates bigger problems, but first of all, your thoughts on the segment and the promo and the content of the promo.
It's hard because I don't know how I feel about this. I have seen people's response to this being top. People really enjoyed this. People whose opinions I very highly rate. And I was genuinely quite surprised because when I was watching it, my reaction to it was, oh, I don't know if I think this might be an own goal. I was a bit confused, and the note I have written down was I don't know how I feel about this, because I can understand why he's doing it, but it might end up being a bit of an own goal. And even when you're recapping the speech itself, it's almost like I want to separate my feelings on it into two camps. There's the delivery and the conviction and Seth Rollins' work here, which I think was really great. Like, I think he's very good at this.
It's because he believes it.
Yeah.
He truly believes this is the top title in WWE.
Yeah, and I like Seth Rollins. You know, I think the idea that we don't is misguided. I think it's just a case of as a babyface champ, he's always found it more difficult than being a babyface chaser or even being a heel champ. I think some of his best work was when he was the heel champ of the Authority.
Absolutely.
I almost want to separate his performance from the substance of it, because I have a problem with the substance of it. Because for me, it's massively exposing a pretty huge issue that they've got, which is that they've got two world titles, neither of which feel like the prize anymore. When Cody was going for it at WrestleMania 39, it felt like, I want to see this lad hold that belt, and he's going to take a 800-odd day reign, and it's, you know, Roman's greatness on a different level. The Bloodline storyline was popping off. We'd seen everyone queue up to take him down. I thought it was going to be Drew at Clash at the Castle. I thought maybe it was going to be
Sami
I
at
never
Chamber.
thought it, but it could have been Kevin Owens. It could have been Sami at Chamber, but now it's Cody, and I feel like this is the right moment. It's going to happen, and then it didn't happen. And I know there was a comment earlier on that sort of said it might make 39 look like a good choice if he were to win it at 40. And I can sort of see that argument, to be honest with you. But what Roman has done since, and I'm going to say Money in the Bank, because I actually really like the Money in the Bank match.
Me too.
Everything subsequently, and or rather more pertinently, the lack of anything subsequently, has made it feel like a prop, a thing, rather than a prize.
Yep.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the coin, you've got Seth's belt, which was literally invented to give them something to do because otherwise Roman's not going to be here. Like, that's not just our perception, it's kind of what they said. And Seth's been doing all this work to try and make it count, but for one reason or another, despite an up and down series of matches, it kind of hasn't. So I don't really know. I felt like this promo had the potential to explain why that one would be a prize, but Cody wouldn't go for it. And instead, what it did was devalue the other one. So if Cody goes after Roman, and I think the story was right there, because that first moment that you saw them together, he points at the sign, I'm having a great time. He's done his little, I'm on my feet, I'm a big fan, loving it. He looks great. And then he turns around and points at Roman Reigns, and I was like, whoa! And I think we talked about this afterwards, because I was really into the Rumble as a result of what I'd just seen as a fan, which was Roman Reigns be handed the belt by Paul Heyman saying, show him you're not scared, despite the fact that I'd seen him look scared.
Roman selling me it was so great.
Exactly. And then he's like, jaw-jacking, really giving it something. Oh, you want this? You'll never have this. I'm better than you. They're literally other sides of the arena from each other, and I can feel the tension. It's like, remember when they walked past each other on SmackDown, and I felt myself get a little bit wobbly. I want that, and I felt like we had that. And then what this has done is remove some of the bite from what Cody might have to say, to my perspective. Because if Cody goes over and says, okay, you say you're on God mode, I think you're on false God mode. You're never here. You don't defend that belt. And when you are in the ring, you hide behind Solo, who is a much better tribal chief than you will ever be. He had so many things that he could say, so much fire and energy. And now if he says it, I almost feel like it's just him leaning out from behind Seth Rollins and going, yeah. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if this was nearly as effective as it could have been. I understand why they've had to do it, because if Punk was in the plans and now he's not, you need to make it look at the very least like that is a prize that Cody might go for. Otherwise, if Cody just ignores it completely, for me, I think there would have been another way to go about it.
It's also one of the things of, you and I have talked about this. We talked about this when the belt got introduced as well, which is like I find it funny that you said that Roman's belt felt like a prop since Money in the Bank. It's almost coincidentally around the time that this belt got introduced. It's almost as if having two world titles does make one feel like a prop. I'd hate to say that I'm right all the time, but
no,
you
don't.
I'm kidding, of course. But you and I said this when the belt got introduced, was that it's a problem that it's on Raw, because Cody's on Raw, but he keeps saying he doesn't want to go for this belt because he's not interested in this belt, because what he's interested in Roman and the other belts. And that's a problem for this belt here, because Cody's now going to be on this brand for another year, not going for this world title, even though his whole thing is, I want to win a world title, but apparently you don't want to win this world title. So you almost needed to address this elephant in the room of, why didn't you come for Seth's belt? It's kind of what happened to you in Fantasy Booking Warfare. When you Nina
Gunther.
Yeah, was it Nina or Nina Samuels pointed out to you? It's like, why wouldn't Gunther?
Not he who shall not be named.
No, why wouldn't Gunther go for Roman? That's the bigger prize. And you were like, but you need to make the belt feel like important, and the other. For me, this promo has no good outcome to it. Either Cody picks Seth. So either Cody picks Roman, and that is going to make Seth's belt feel even more second rate than it currently does. Because Cody has heard everything that Seth has just said then, including, this is an actual belt, and that one's for politicers and Hulk Hogan and Hollywood elite. And he's still going to, yeah, but that is the one that I want, though, because that's not a real belt. Or he picks Rollins, and all of a sudden Roman has just got a prop.
Yeah.
He's just got a pointless politicking belt that So the reign that he's had, this 1,000-day reign, means ultimately nothing because he's not there with it. So it doesn't actually mean much that he's got it. It doesn't mean anything that he beat Randy Orton and AJ Styles and LA Knight on Royal Rumble. It doesn't matter that he beat Jey Uso. None of it matters. And whoever he faces at WrestleMania will be going for a belt that is meaningless because apparently it's not a real world title. There's no good outcome to this.
That's where I start feeling like it's a bit of an own goal.
It's a massive own goal.
Again, I understand why it was necessary to do something, but I just found the content of it frustrating. And I really want to stress, just so that I've said it until I'm blue in the face, it ain't got nothing to do with Seth because, as you say, he believed it and the conviction of it was really powerful. I thought his performance was massive. Just the content. And for me, I think I can see two alternatives to this. One is what do we do to fix this? And the other is what I would have done instead. I'll do with the one I would have done instead because that's alternate universe, which would very simply have been Cody comes out, makes a giant speech about how he's going to go after, because he said in a bunch of speeches how much he respects Rollins and how much that is an amazing prize. This one's personal. I had you last year. I want to take you out. The whole Mr. Heyman thing. Like, they can have all of that and just say, I'm coming for you, Roman Reigns, you and me. It's going to be WrestleMania second year in a row, la, la, la. Cody goes backstage. Maybe it's post-commercial break. And you have Seth standing there with the belt, all swagger, I wouldn't have come after me either. And then pat him on the chest where he had that broken tit and be like, swag off to the ring and make a speech about how who's going to face me, blah, blah, blah. Then you can do whatever. Or even, maybe that's Seth's whole involvement on the show. An arrogance.
A tough argument for Rollins to make, considering he's 3-0 against Seth Rollins, against Cody Rhodes.
Well, again, it doesn't matter if you believe it. Like, I've been the champion all this time and you've
been dodging me.
Blah, 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 all of that. You can do whatever you want. It's a fictional show.
It's a fake show.
The other side of it, I think what I would do if it were me to fix all of these issues is have Heyman cut an equally passionate speech in a Back to the Future mold. Almost saying, coward, you couldn't take it anyway. You know you couldn't. You didn't manage it last year. You've had all these issues, blah, blah, blah. You're never going to be able to do it, kid. It's not meant for you. So why don't you go to Raw and, go after that prize and you look amazing with that belt. It's a belt worthy of you, all of those things. It's just that you're not greatness on this level. By calling him a chicken, by calling him a coward, you almost goad him to go with the red mist rather than go with Seth, and then you can just pivot to something else. It just didn't feel like it achieved what it set out to achieve.
And I some people in the live chat there being like, oh, that's just your opinion on what was, said. But like, that's literally what he said.
Yeah.
I'm not putting my opinion onto what Seth said. That's literally what Seth said in this promo. I have a real belt. Roman's is fake. So if you go for my belt, then you're going for a real champion. If you're going for Roman, then you're a Hollywood phony. So whoever goes for Roman's belt is a Hollywood phony. And if Cody doesn't pick Rollins, then A, we've wasted this last year building towards a match that isn't going to happen at the main event of their big WrestleMania. Or B, he does go for that belt, and Rollins looks like a complete chump because apparently Cody Rhodes felt that the phony fake belt was better than the real title that Dusty would have gone for.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a good outcome to this promo, despite the fact this was such a good promo. It was such a good promo, it got the crowd to believe that this was the right choice for Cody to make.
I think it was ill thought out, but I am willing, egg on my face as it always has been, to see what happens on Friday, to see what happens next. I just didn't think it was effective in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kofi cut a promo backstage. He said, hey, the great thing about New Day is New Day wins championships because he's got a title match against Gunther later on. There's a lot of video packages on this show. We've got a big video promo for Bron Breakker and his appearance in the Royal Rumble. And then we've got Jey Uso versus Bronson Reed, who had a pretty good match, and Jey got the win with the splash.
This was a bit of meh to me. Like, it was a good match. I really enjoyed the match, but I struggled to care. It was a weird rumble for Jey Uso. I thought that he didn't really do a lot. Like, I don't know. It was really ineffective. Jimmy's what I remember from that, and it was for banter rather than for intensity.
Yeah, I said this on the Rumble review though. But
I thought it was great after banter. I really enjoyed Jimmy Uso.
Jimmy Uso is a very, very funny man. It's just his. I don't know what your character is then, because you had this big whole intense stare down with Jey, and apparently that's the super serious brother versus brother
instead of just.
And then and then it's just like, and every time a heel came in, Jimmy's like, "Hey, we should be mates now." And I'm like, "Oh, are you a comedy goofball? Are you R-Truth, or are you Roman Reigns? Like, which one are you?"
But at least Jey got a win, and the match was good.
Yeah.
So.
Got a video promo for Andrade's return at the Royal Rumble, and he has signed with Monday Night Raw. actually surprised by that. I really thought he was going to go to SmackDown because you've got kind of the Latino World Order stuff going on over there, and I thought they were probably going to try and slot him into some of that. I don't know what you do with him on Monday Night Raw, but I'm excited for Andrade in WWE, and I'm excited to see a motivated Andrade. And, you know, the dude just looks like $1 million. Like, he looks cool. He looks like a legit top superstar.
When he did walk out, though, and he said... So Nick Aldis came into the segment, and when he said to Nick Aldis, say hello to Zelina Vega for me, I literally yelled, no, say it to her yourself! You should be with her! I wanted them to be back together, because they're such a great pairing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like if you're gonna give me Andrade versus Gunther, I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah, absolutely not. Nick Aldis did walk in here and had a little bit of jealousy about him when he was like, look, I loaned you damage control. I thought we were here to do business, but I see that you're conducting business elsewhere. And it was like, oh, is Adam Pearce not allowed to try and sign this talent, Nick? Do you want to all to yourself, do you, Nick? And then he left the call being, I'm sorry, Bron Breakker is calling me.
I love that
So
part. It was
good.
so petty. I mean, I will say damage control are both the women's tag champs and the Rumble winner, which means they're allowed to go wherever they want.
Yeah.
But like that's not the point, because I really loved the segment. I thought the little cattiness between them was I'm into it.
I like it a lot. Gunther cut a return promo on Kofi, and then we got a promo for the Women's Royal Rumble, focusing on Naomi, Jordan Grace, and Jade Cargill. It was the better Rumble of the two, in my humble opinion. Jackie interviewed Becky Lynch, who said not only did she let herself down, but she also let people down. But you know what happens when you're down? You get right back up. And she is now on her road to get her WrestleMania match.
This was less fun than the segment that Becky posted to social media of her and Kevin Owens having a pep talk. I wish they'd just put that on telly.
Yeah.
You know? Sometimes I'm like, mess with the format a bit.
Gunther took on Kofi Kingston for the Intercontinental Championship. In the hype-up for this match, Cole talked about how this was Gunther's toughest test as IC champion, and that would make sense because Kofi last won a singles match in September.
I didn't like this match, Luke.
Did you not?
Nope.
How come you didn't like this match?
Because it was 2 full segments of Gunther just in full domination mode, which didn't feel like powerful. It felt slow. I think 1 segment of it would have been powerful, but 2 full segments replete with ad breaks of it. One of those segments could have gone to Zoe and Shayna and made that match feel a little bit more substantial to begin with. But it just felt, I just found myself veering to my phone. Picked up a bit when the comeback spot started.
Yeah, when Kofi made his comeback, it did pick up pace.
I think the thing is, I've now arrived at a place where I don't think Gunther is going to lose. Where before, I'd hoped that maybe Chad Gable might sneak a win, or maybe
The Miz.
The
Miz made me believe, man.
There you go. But like, I now don't think, especially with WrestleMania on the horizon, and especially with, all the Royal Rumble, the talk about the Seth, potentially all this stuff, I don't believe he's going to lose. So I think the matches have to be structured differently as a result. When you're sitting down to produce it, he needs to just batter him in 3 minutes and go away. Or they need to do something else to figure out how I can believe that he might get the win. Because it just didn't work for me here.
I quite enjoyed Kofi hitting the Trouble in Paradise from out of nowhere.
I mean, the SOS looked great. We don't see that move often enough. I really like it.
Like, they did some really good near falls. I thought the Trouble in Paradise from out of nowhere was particularly great because Kofi just was not in he didn't have enough strength to capitalize on that, and then Gunther had to roll to the outside because he realized that he was in trouble. So I thought they did that quite well. And then Gunther just hit the powerbomb and won. It didn't have that Gunther snap to it.
And then when I sat down, all I was thinking about was Kofi Ivar, and I was like, I cannot wait for this. So when I then didn't get what I think I wanted, I was like,
Yeah, I think that's about, I don't think it was on the level of Gunther matches that we've had, and actually not on the level of Kofi matches that we've had of late either. Afterwards, Imperium attacked Woods and Kofi. Yeah. We got a video recap of Drew beating Sami last month by targeting the knee. More on that later. And then Jackie, I believe her first appearance, I know she interviewed Becky, but like, because they were doing so many of the walk and talk promos, I was like, is there a role for Jackie on this show now? Everyone's just doing their own promos. But no, she did show up. She did do some work. And she interviewed Sami, and Sami was talking about how Drew put him on the sidelines and also took him out of the Rumble, so he's going to give Drew McIntyre a reality check. We got a video promo for Jade Cargill, and we then saw Sami walking up, and then we got the Kabuki Warriors taking on Tegan Nox and Natalya, who did not get an entrance.
No, they did not.
I was going to make, how I made my Kofi Kingston joke? I do this on the show a lot. I think people really like it when I talk about how like people haven't won X number of matches or haven't won a match.
Oh yeah, it goes down really well.
Yeah, I mean, people love it when I talk about some facts. And I was like, I was going to make
Rip off your shirt and reveal a cagematch.net tattoo.
I like cage match, man. It's a wonderful resource.
Yeah,
for
it
me.
actually is very helpful.
I'm not checking any reviews, but I do.
As a database.
But as a database, it's good for me to find times. I like it. But I did go on there because I was like, I'm going to make my joke about when was the last time Tegan and Natalya last won a tag match. And do you know what I found? They've won one match as a team.
Yeah.
They've won one. They've been a team for ages. They've won one match together. Why do they feel like they're always in the tag title scene? They've won one match together.
Because when there are only 4 tag teams, everyone's in the title scene.
Yes, so they won one match, and it was in November.
Yeah.
And it was to earn a title shot against Green and Piper. Absolutely crap. I'm so ready for these two to be done. I enjoyed them like trying to eliminate each other at the Royal Rumble. And then on commentary they were like, actually, Natalya said it was a good thing that she did, and she's proud of her.
But so I'm gonna stop you from potentially going down negative boulevard, and I'm gonna pop back to my earnest sunshine positive boulevard or whatever.
Not negative. I'm done with it, boulevard.
Yeah. First of all, I really liked the tangle between Asuka and Natalya. I'm a little bit hot because I had a squabble with Andy Datson over whether or not Natalya has talent, and the answer is she does. But
I mean, Andy is categorically wrong on that.
Yeah, no, he's also
she's well boring.
He's also someone who I adore, but is a little troll boy. Like, don't get me wrong.
Oh no, he fully does believe what he's saying. He genuinely believes that Natalya is awful,
well,
and I think that is objectively wrong.
Yeah,
but I do think she is a touch boring.
Well, this is why I liked what happened at the Rumble with what they said on the commentary, and then what happened here, because I, for a long time, have talked about wanting Natalya to have a little something. I like the idea of she's got all these world records, and yes, it's purely because she's just
always there.
Yeah, and she's polite enough to not get fired and all that stuff, or released rather. But she also has legitimate, genuine skills. She trained in the dungeon. Look at that match with Rhea Ripley last year. When she's given the opportunity to do something with a little bit of spice, it gets entertaining. I'm not necessarily saying she needs to have a world title run. I'm not necessarily saying she needs to be in the main event of WrestleMania or even the main event of NXT Vengeance Day. What I am saying is she should be utilized as a kind of godmother of the women's division, as someone who is there to help train you, as someone who is there to provide decades of experience. She wrestled in Japan, she's wrestled in the dungeon, she's been with WWE for so long. So when what we got here was the idea of I'm going to go and eliminate Tegan Nox, oh well, but she's eliminated me kind of thing, and then I actually quite like that. It showed a little bit of fire, it showed a little bit of, oh, I'm rubbing off on you, your psychology is getting better. And here she's screaming for a tag from Tegan. She's like, tag me, Tegan, and Tegan's too busy getting ready to do a bit of showboating.
Yeah,
she wants to do a dive off the apron, and it goes completely arse over tit, and it goes wrong. And so it's like, oh well, great. I mean, good for you. Going off the apron's good for showing off. But where are your fundamentals? Because we just lost this match as a result of you trying to show off. That kind of stuff is interesting to me. I would like them to do more with that. Whether or not they will is a whole other question. But I think that is a really effective use of Natalya in 2024. I
completely agree with you. The longer this match went, the deader the crowd got, and not helped by the fact that Natalya is the loudest person. Damage control
but
one.
DIY.
Well, no, okay, but here's the other side of that, is that DIY got over because they gave them time.
Yeah, they
were giving them matches.
Whether they will or not, that's a different question.
Well, that's it. But going by the tag match we had earlier in the night, I just don't think it's going to happen. I really do think that a lot of Triple H's stuff, it is what we say about Tony Khan, it's lipstick service. Like, I don't think he's actually actively pushing this division. He's just putting it on TV.
This is where I want to call it out, because if you put them out, and it's why the whole question becomes about like, oh yeah, if they're not over, they shouldn't be on TV. If a male-led blockbuster movie falls flat on its arse, it'll get a sequel. If a women's-led blockbuster movie falls flat on its arse, the argument is no one wants to see them full stop, never, none of them won't make another one. So they have to do it so much harder. DIY get like 4, 5, 6 segments. Now, Natty and Tegan are on TV every single week, or like most weeks, so I appreciate that is happening. I don't want to come across like I'm not watching the product, but I also hate calling it product. That's one of my resolutions for this year, is to stop saying that.
Why?
But I don't know, it's like when you call stuff content. I hate it. I hate it.
Well, what do we make then?
Videos, streams,
that's just
insights,
it's just another word. It's like an all-encompassing movies. It's an all-encompassing term of genres.
And the Academy Award for Best Content goes to. Like, I don't like it.
Me, probably.
I don't want it. But like, anyway, they're just not given the same story commitment. They go out and have a match. Oh, they're trying to get a win to go for the tag belts. That's not a story. This has the nuggets of a story. Bayley has a real dynamite, compelling story. Becky has compelling stories. In the women's division, there are stories. I just really like for you to chase this one, whichever member of the writing assistance team is watching. I like this Natalya Tegan story. Do it. I beg you.
Also, the DIY thing. DIY won.
Yeah. Well, not this week.
No, but they were winning matches, and that's what was getting them over.
Did they not get one win? You just used your cage match stats to...
Yes, they've had their one win to win a tag title match that they lost. But he had another video promo. Jackie interviewed the Party Girls. I'd forgotten they were the tag champions, but they're saying they're getting another shot at the belts next week. We've got a video promo for the Rumble, and speaking of the Rumble, Damage Control. Bayley joined Damage Control in the ring to talk about her Rumble win. I really like Bayley's promo here because it was... Look, when I put this group together, everyone said I was stupid. It's not going to work. You're not as good as you once were. This is not going to lead to a lot of things. I'll be honest. I was one of those people because Damage Control just lost all the time. It was just, they were just there to lose to Bianca and friends. You and I review this every single week. But this group is now paying dividends for her. Funny enough, once everyone else is getting involved and she's losing a lot of the power, they're starting to be... That's kind of the brilliance of this story. And it looked like she was about to challenge Rhea Ripley, specifically because she had broken her record at the Royal Rumble. Funnily enough, I don't think she was supposed to break the record. The match went about 15 minutes longer than it was supposed to. And Rhea Ripley came out to say, challenging me would be a bloody stupid idea. But Nia Jax attacked Rhea Ripley from behind, destroyed her down ringside, got her into the ring, hit several leg drops and hit the Banzai drop. All the while, Damage Control and Bayley are laughing, being like, look at this stupid idiot. And then when Nia Jax turned around to them, all of the rest of Damage Control got out of the ring apart from Bayley. And Bayley was like, maybe I'll make my choice on Friday. Actually, I'm thinking about it. I'm going to make my choice on Friday. Because she's scared that Nia Jax might beat Rhea Ripley and then she'll have to face Nia Jax instead.
I liked this very much.
Me too.
I also think the Women's Rumble was the better one of the night. I watched it back yesterday, and while it was long, too long,
I disagree on that one.
Well, too long because they planned it to be a certain amount of time.
I see. Sorry,
long.
not like it felt too long.
No,
not like Wakanda Forever, which felt too long.
No. I liked it, and I loved everything from like all Jordan Grace's performance was incredible. Blah blah blah. All of this stuff. Jade Cargill looked amazing. Nia Jax was a real part of making Jade Cargill look amazing because she went on her run and then was so willing to be fed to Jade Cargill. So I don't think she lost any steam. I think rather than it was the perfect use of Jade Cargill because rather than Nia looking stupid, Jade looked strong.
Absolutely.
So I can fully believe Nia coming back out for Rhea Ripley. I also saw on Twitter, and I can't remember who it was, but credit to you for editing together a little series of a little montage of clips of Damage Control where Io starts questioning Bayley's leadership bit by bit, wins the championship, starts taking control, brings more of her friends in, starts being a dick to Bayley. That's such a good story.
And you and I were talking about this on the Rumble Live reactions. It was Bayley saving Asuka, Bayley saving Zayn, all the MVP of the group that no one respects.
And the whole idea was that they were saying, I had a lot of people at the live watch along say to me that Bayley shouldn't win because, well, the story is that Damage Control all have belts and she doesn't, so now they can kick her out. And I was like, nah, if she wins it, she gets to say, I'm one of the gang. Like, I've still got this. And Damage Control, smart as they are, can use this to their advantage so we get a Batista 2005 situation. No, you should go after Rhea. You should go after Rhea. What we got in this segment was Bayley being like, I can honestly believe that conversation happened off screen, and then Bayley sees Nia Jax and is like, yeah, maybe I'll make my decision later. And then you had a shot of Io being like, this isn't going the way I thought it was going to.
This is not going to plan.
So that is a far more compelling story, and I have my eyes fixed on the main event of night one, and I'm gonna be a dick about this. It has to be the main event of night one because it should be, because that's what the point is. We have 2 nights of WrestleMania, we have 2 Royal Rumbles. They said in this one, and I checked, in previous Rumbles they said gets a championship match at Mania. Last time they said main event specifically. Now I know, don't.
But damn,
there are so many main events.
They're all main events, really. If there's 4 main events, you've got one of the main events of WrestleMania. It doesn't have to be the actual main event of WrestleMania.
Sod off.
That's semantics.
because
that's how the word loses more meaning, Dan.
But I think for me, I'm like looking at this storyline, which is based around friends, based around best friends, based around people being there for you, and I'm imagining the incredible video package that they make better than anybody. I'm imagining we cut to the live crowd. They're already chanting for Bayley. We hit her original music again. You get a pop for that. She comes out. She ties her hair up. She gets a pop for that. And then the Bayley buddies come out. We get a third pop for that. I feel like that feels like a big main event moment. Where I disagree with earlier on, you said like about potentially putting Becky in Rio. Well, I do think that's a main event caliber story and performers.
I'm saying if the feud is the hottest thing.
I agree with that. It's just that I think if you're going to make that feud the hottest thing, you make Becky win. Otherwise, what's the point?
I think Becky would win.
I mean, the Rumble.
Oh, the Rumble.
The Rumble.
No, I'm. My point is more if it's the story.
No, I agree with that, but that's why I'm like, so decide that's going to be the hottest story.
Oh yeah, it's up to
book it properly.
Of that, yeah,
that's where it all comes down to. Tegan and Natty have only had one win. Who makes the flipping show? It's fiction. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So like that's on you, bookers. Anyway, yeah, that's my Bayley thing. I think it's got real potential.
This is where my Pat commentary comes in because obviously Nia Jax took out Rhea Ripley and Pat McAfee goes like, man, she took her out with 3 leg drops and Michael Carter was like, the Annihilator.
Yes.
And Pat was like, yep, that one too.
Yeah.
And then our main event was Sami Zayn versus Drew McIntyre. Jackie interviewed Drew before the match and actually did a good journalist and asked Drew about Sami's comments from earlier, not just being like, thoughts on the match. Yeah. She was referencing an interview that she had done and being like, well, this person has said this. What
she went to journalism for that.
Absolutely. And he was like, yeah, Sami said a lot of things, but guess what? He's never beaten me and he's not going to do it again now. Let's go for a match. And they had a match and it was all right. It was a pretty good match. Drew won it straight away because he'd had the match won by countout, but chose not to do that so he could inflict more punishment. And I thought the match was fun, but I really liked the finish.
Yeah.
So Sami makes his big comeback. He goes to do the haluva kick, and Drew ducks, and he puts his hands up to protect himself, and in doing so, hits Sami in the knee. Sami is the one who's hurt his knee recently, fun enough, by Drew, no less. That's why they set it up earlier in the night. And Drew, rather than show any remorse for that, just hit the Claymore and won. And then he hit the pin and told the referee, raise my hand now because I've just won the match. Great performance by Drew. Match itself was so-so, but I thought the actual finish was excellent.
The match was good. It's just that we saw the match a lot recently, and it was. I was surprised. I thought we'd get a little bit more time for it. Maybe they'd save it for a big show. Maybe they'd save them to have a clash in the chamber or whatever. But I really like the ending, much like you, because for me it was an example of Drew not hesitating, where in the past he has. So he spends the whole match snarling and grunting and following on from his line earlier on about like I prayed for this to happen. Like it's like, oh, he's really going there. He's really playing with that, and I really like it. In the past, including in the Rumble on Saturday, when he was like thinking about, and now I'm going to eliminate, Punk, and I'm going to say words to him, and then finds himself eliminated. And even in this match, where yes, he could have had the count out but goes elsewhere, then he decides to do a little monologue in Sami Zayn's face and gets beaten up as a result of it. This was a moment where Sami accidentally gets low blowed, and he goes, "Oh, hang on. Well, how's your head? Because I'm going to kick it off your head." Like straight away. Immediately, I'm going to take my opportunity, which is something he hasn't done for a time, which for me sets him up as monster. Once he's realized and he's got proof positive, that's what happens when I don't hesitate. I do that.
On the same show as well, where he attacked a man who was injured.
Yeah.
In CM Punk.
Ruthlessness now.
He's a ruthless dude. And I think it was a great night for Drew.
I would also... there's a little part of me that wants to see... since we're not going to have Seth and Punk, maybe use Seth's injury to his advantage, allow him to go off and properly heal rather than just do a little bit of rehab. If that's going to be better for him, to take him out, be that level of ruthless, and then we have a vacant title for the Elimination Chamber.
It's the other thing we didn't talk about in the Cody thing. I know we need to get into the rest of the Ultrachats, but it is still a point to make about the Seth promo from earlier in the night. If it is going to be Seth versus Cody, is it Roman Rock?
I hope not. Because talk about Hollywood title.
Well, yeah, but that's exactly 2 proven part-timers going for a belt that apparently is meaningless. But
what? Nah, I don't want that.
But then who is it? Do you do Randy? I guess you do Randy Orton. Like they didn't do the singles match at Royal Rumble.
This is why I don't. For all the conversation that we've had, I don't see Seth and Cody. I don't see it. Because I think there are more options for Seth, and there are no options for Roman. Other than Rock, there's something inevitable about that. I think more people would be turned off by that. Maybe I'll be wrong on that, but
yeah.
If they're thinking how are we going to get the views, 2 matches rather than the 1.
Yeah. And also, stick to your plans.
Yeah.
Let's know what you thought of this show. I gave it 4 out of 5. As a thumbs up show. I thought the 2 promo segments, the 2 main promo segments, while I do have some issues with the Seth
it was well
promo,
performed.
it was so well performed. I really thought that Seth knocked it out the park. How he got that crowd on side, I thought was really, really great. And yeah, I thought those 2 things were it's made me go that makes me think of this, that makes me ask questions. Want to see next week's show? So thumbs up show from me. Sir Cardigan the Warm, please do get the rest of you, get your Ultrachats into WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them above the $5 amount. If you want to let us know your thoughts on the show, you can click the thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs in the middle poll that is in the live chat right now. Sir Cardigan the Warm said, at first, I laughed at the idea of Seth begging Cody to pick him. It did feel desperate at one point. But then I thought about it. Why wouldn't Seth lobby to go for the main event? He is the world champion, and this is his best chance currently. I wish they had mentioned that Cody is 3-0. Option 2. Drew finishes the story and Priest cashes in. This would be the best possible outcome for everyone involved. There's beef with Drew and Priest, furthers Drew's story, and at the end of the day, all roads lead to Gunther. To help Drew up again, play on the rumors that Drew hasn't signed yet. If he loses, he quits. Well, he wins, then the cash in. Also, it looks like Seth is going to lose that main event to his wife again. It shouldn't matter, but does. I feel bad.
Can we stop talking about Becky as being someone else's wife? She's a main eventer in her own right. That really grinds my gears, and I don't mean to take it on you specifically, Cardigan. It's just the idea that AJ Lee was going to show up at the Rumble because she's married to Punk. The people, especially Becky Lynch, has an identity in her own right and had it long before she was going out with Seth Rollins.
We have an unknown username here. Please do let our moderators know. It's a Streamlabs issue, I'm afraid. While I feel as though we're going to get Seth versus Drew, or maybe Seth versus Sami, maybe they swerve us and fix the mistake they made at Royal Rumble 2011 and give us Seth versus Santino. Wishful thinking, but they do have a working relationship with TNA now. Matt Hennessy here said, a solid Raw that delivered. While Punk injury is unfortunate, it will open the door for Becky versus Rhea to headline Night 1, which, to be honest, is the match that should main event Night 1.
She should have won the Rumble.
I think the World Heavyweight Championship at Mania, you do Seth versus Drew versus Sami. I think it's hard to put Sami in the match now.
Huh?
I suppose you can still put Sami in the match now. I guess again, it feels like Sami's taking a lot of L's.
Well, this is why in my head I was so surprised they were having a match. Because you could have had a Drew and Sami match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting.
You protect Seth if he hasn't fully recovered from injury, and both Sami and Drew have good storyline reasons to go for the title. Love the tag titles match, and even in defeat, DIY came off like stars when they had their reunion 3 minutes ago. I thought they would never get over. I hope the momentum is capitalized on the post-tag title feud. Hopefully, they do the WrestleMania tag title showcase again this year, and DIY should win that. Also, fun fact, Andrade makes history being the first active wrestler to jump from WWE to AEW, then back from AEW to WWE. Surprised he ain't on SmackDown given the big LWO storyline, and I would have liked him and Zelina paired together because they were a money act in NXT. Maybe after WrestleMania with the draft, they can be reunited. Kevin, it says, fantasy booking. On SmackDown, Bayley steps into damage control speaking Japanese and secretly records them. When Dakota tells her everything's okay, she then has a friend who is in Japan who helped to translate before picking you up Mania. Or just do it, Google Translate.
It's right there.
Do it there. It's do it on screen. I think that'd be really funny. This is why my pitch was on the Royal Rumble review. I was like, you literally do the... Triple H loves that Evolution storyline. So you just do it again. Bayley stood there. They're all having their conversation. And she overhears them say, Dave Bautista's a big dumb idiot. Of course he's going to go to SmackDown and pick JBL. And then Batista reveals, I'm picking you, Hunter. Thumbs down.
I also, for me, I would like for Bayley to deliver one line in Japanese. I want that reveal rather than a thumbs down. I want her to say in Japanese, I'm picking you, you little cow, or whatever.
That'd be great. Moose, not the one from TNA, says, I really don't want another Seth versus Cody match. Cody has beaten Seth 3 times in a row, once while injured. There's no logical reason for him to choose Seth unless he's scared and thinks that he can't beat Roman.
That's a good point.
That is a good point, actually. Yeah, that's something we didn't touch upon.
You briefly mentioned that he was 3 and up when I'm talking about.
I meant the second part of that. That if Cody does decide he's going to pick Seth, then what was all this chat you had about Roman? Then it does make you feel like you're perhaps running a bit scared from him. Christian here says, got choked up by the Punk promo and news because he's been my favorite since 2011. Hopeful for his comeback, and he will have one thing that he didn't have when he got injured in AEW, the Performance Center. There he can do rehab, recovery, and teach the NXT roster.
The mental health part is the most important for me.
Absolutely. Nikolai here says, I've got no pity for Punk. He's repeatedly gone into fights and tried to hurt people, showed no remorse, and probably got a better paying job as a result. Now he's hurt. I don't believe karma, but it sounds like it to me. That's, again, not the views of this channel. Juan Perez has been a membug for 28 months in a row, said, I hate to hear about CM Punk. In a way, I see it as karma for his actions, someone with so much potential that can't get out of his own way. Man, a lot of people really are going for this karma thing, yeah.
There's two sides to every story.
Matt here says, Punk is out of action till September, and they set up Drew as his return feud, and the same Drew whose contract expires in April. I know they're speculating that Drew has re-signed. I wonder if it's an MJF situation where they've been quiet that he's signed a new deal. I mean, yeah, as I said in the show, I think that Drew, if he hasn't already, is probably on the cards to re-sign at this point.
I think it's one of those questions of what can you achieve? What do you want in your career? What are you getting? And will he get more from this than it was like by Adam Copeland? It was like he was at a point where he was ready to do something else, and do it he is. If Drew feels like, yes, I've got loads more on this one, take that one.
Kid Cuddy here says, Luke, you're thinking too cynically with the logic. Seth
No, not my Luke Owen.
Seth's promo told no lies. But all Cody had to say is that is the reason why he must take Roman's belt from him, to free the people from his tyrannical reign. That would make it Dusty's belt. Moving forward, I think we all need to remember the way that Triple H cooks. We're always one promo or one match from changing our opinion about something. Or so some of the same complaints y'all have had about DIY just moved to the tag division. Just give them time. Well, that's the problem, isn't it? I don't think they are giving them time.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
That's exactly it. And you're absolutely right, though. It can just be like, all it needs is one promo.
Yeah, this is what Let It Play Out has meant to me. It's become a meme, but like Let It Play Out has always meant from literally WrestleMania 39. See what happens in a couple of weeks' time. If in a couple of weeks' time, as has happened with Jey and Jimmy, I was like, at SummerSlam, I was like, well, let's see what happens. Nothing is the answer. There you go. That's my response.
Edgar Carrasco's been in Memberg for 25 months in a row. Said, honestly, I want to see Cody get the WWE title that he's been chasing, but going for the World Heavyweight Championship would leave Rock versus Roman open for Mania. Cameron Samble said, well, I get the problem with Seth's promos. It works, though. You can still have Cody go for Roman's belt, but validate what Rollins said, and have Cody's motivation be to change the perspective of the WWE title. So I feel it's a setup for Gunther to go for Seth. Brandon here said the phony belt is the belt that Cody initially said is the one his father never got to hold. Finishing the story, it's Cody winning the belt that his dad never got. So Cody wants a world title? No. He made it clear he wants the WWE title. But again, like if it's in that case, it still raises the problem. It's like, well, what's wrong with Seth's belt then?
Yeah, it's the way it was introduced. Like when they way over time, but when they introduced the World Heavyweight title in 2003, it was, I've signed Brock Lesnar to an exclusive SmackDown contract. Well, Raw needs a top belt, so I'm going to create this belt. And then part of the reason that it wasn't anything was because it was handed to Triple H. It's all about presentation.
Hannah from the NRB Discord says, we now have a chamber where due to injury, immigration rules, and the contract that only one men's champ who can be in Perth is Logan Paul. What match will be in the chamber? I imagine it will be for the...
other spot,
the other women's title match, and the other men's title match probably. Annie Madrid said, so these are next up here is a bunch of chats that were missed from our Royal Rumble review that we did on Sunday. Apologies that these did not get read out. It was an issue within Streamlabs that these all got lost, but we've now found them. So we're now about to get quite a few thoughts on the Royal Rumble, which would be good because you can get your thoughts.
Yeah, I haven't whinged about it yet.
Andy Madrid said, people will complain about the lack of surprises, but two great Rumbles built entirely around full-timers and active stars is a win for me. The ending stare down gave me chills. Cody and Roman in a sea of thousands, dead focused only on one another. It was magic.
Couldn't put it better myself. I really agree with that.
Mary McFly says, hey gents, thanks for the amazing live stream yesterday. Was a little disappointed we didn't get AJ Lee, but the whole team made the Royal Rumble one of the best PLE watch experiences. Sending love from Dan Ander.
Oh, you get one soon on your clock.
Kevin here says, last night at the pub was amazing. Thanks for the great event. The Women's Rumble was a perfect Rumble, how it was structured and the potential matches you can have from it. Definitely match of the night. The rest was good, made better because I was with you all. Ben Blerick said, as much as I'd love for Cody to finally win the WWE, it'd simply be hilarious if he were to lose again. I think Pete might actually die from a heart attack if it happens. Some men just want to watch the world burn. Evil laugh. Tyrone here said, I honestly loved tonight's show. Thought Punk would win, and I would see Cody win the chamber in Perth, but this is a surprise. We're making WrestleMania match. I like making WrestleMania match much bigger with the proper epic, as I love both, although Seth Bells looks more secondary than ever. HH kiss kiss. That was sent in before the Raw show.
Yeah.
Will Campbell said, hi guys, Jade looked amazing last night. The moment she entered, she looked like a top tier player. This is just the kind of thing that WWE need to do to show her star power. Also, it was cool to see Naomi get emotional at the crowd welcoming her back.
Naomi's return was genuinely wonderful. Jordan Grace, there was I said this upstairs, but Jordan Grace showed off what talent looks like, and all she did was take a clothesline from Kairi Sane, but because of the way she works, it was so tight, like that it looked like, whoa, that was really something. And that's Kairi Sane, who I thought has looked a bit like off kilter since she got back. Jade's section with Bianca, that was my give me what I want moment. I was enamored of it.
That's my main match.
And I think to the point up there that you were up there in the chats that someone mentioned earlier on, the fact that they didn't rely on any legends. Women's Rumbles have been heavily reliant on legends or NXT stars. This one was very much like, look at now and tomorrow. It was genuinely really refreshing. And both matches, actually, the final sort of 6 or 7 competitors, I was like, any of you I can see as a top star. And I thought that was great.
Thought the women's match was so great. The men's one, the more I've thought about it, the more plodding I've felt it was.
Final part, really good. Most of it
I could kind of do without, but I thought the women's match was so great. Yeah, Jade versus Bianca, that's the match for me.
Yeah.
Moose here said, since Bam Punk's non-factor, do you think we'll have Bayley and Io main event one of the nights? They're both good workers, have the story and have the support. Plus, it'll be beneficial for WWE politically.
Yeah, I don't want to be too politicky, but I do think it would make quite a statement.
Matt here says, this was a show that was built well and overall delivered despite the dark cloud hanging over it. It really has shown how the company is moving in a positive direction and listening to the fans. 10 years ago, we wanted Bryan to win, and Vince had Dave win, and it was a middle finger to the fans. This is a new WWE that will listen and give you what you want. In the past, we've always assumed the worst case is what we're getting, but since Hunter took over, that has changed. Full-time talent aren't having their stories thrown away for part-timers. We wanted Bayley and Cody to win, and that's what happened. They gave us what we wanted. Awesome to see Naomi and Andrade. Fun fact, Andrade, blah, blah, blah. Great to see Jordan and Grace in the Rumble. SRS had hinted in the post-show there could be a working relationship between them if things continue to go well. Jade Cargill was made a star in one night. Loved how it was done and loved the KO versus Logan Paul finish.
I'd kind of almost... You said it was a Mania match, and I can see why. There's a little part of me that wants to keep Jade off telly till the Raw after Mania and get her a full year's run rather than hot-shotting. The other argument is make them while you can. You know? So...
Yeah, I did... You've got to capitalize on these things, and like she has got some buzz coming out of that Mania.
That's very true.
So you want to kind of not put her away for a while. You don't want to put that toy back in the chest. You want to like keep that toy out,
because that in a building where sound's not its best friend, that got a reaction.
It did, yeah. And Homestar fan said, I'm sorry, Ollie, but Cody needs to finish this story. It would have been incredibly stupid to have him win the Rumble twice, then fail fail twice. It's now the time.
Yeah, because when I think of Steve Austin, the 2 times in a row he won it, both times he won. And that doesn't mean he held the title for ages and ages and ages, but he won it, right? He won the match.
Yeah.
And that...
He kept winning the match.
You should have. So, yeah.
Brandon here said, I thought Vic Joseph would replace Kevin on SmackDown. We're now back into regular normal day chats as opposed to ones from a little while back. I thought Vic Joseph would replace Kevin Patrick on SmackDown or join Wade on Raw NXT commentary reunion. I guess Vic is so synonymous with NMC at this point that he probably just wanted to stay there, or was he not offered the position?
If I'm someone who has one wandering eye on doing that as a full-time job, NXT looks like a great gig. You get to stay in one place, you get your lovely cozy performance center, you get a constant recycling of people getting called up and new people coming in. If I'm Vic, I'm taking it. Like, don't get me wrong, I'd love to be on the face of Monday Night Raw, and the travel sounds a lot of fun as well, but it's a good gig, and if they're not going to ask you.
Farquhar 4 said, I hope that people gleefully quoting Moxley's fragile promo reflect on their words when they grow up. I'd like to see Drew and Sami go for the belt at WrestleMania 40. Keep Gunther for after Mania so we can put someone over at that show.
There is a difference between a promo and a sort of real life. Like, as wrestlers in the moment, they're allowed to sort of play with that line a little bit, and that can sometimes encourage us as fans to go there too. It is an interesting dynamic.
And lastly here, Gail Force said, I loved Seth promo until you broke it down in the stream. It didn't clock how badly they tore down their own titles.
Sorry.
Feel bad for Punk and Seth having to miss key events. Hope you both get better soon. Man, yeah, I mean, like Perth's now looking a bit bare bones in terms of folks. But actually, strength of WWE is that they've got a lot of top talent that they can fill this up with. But it's a show that Australia have paid a lot, well, the city of Perth have paid a lot for. That's why the show is happening there. And there's no Roman, there's no Brock, there's no Punk, there's no Seth. And like these are the people that they sort of bought the show for, and they're sort of not getting them now.
I would be very tempted, and it would be almost a shame for Seth Rollins, but I'd be very tempted to get that belt off him so that they can have a world title match in the Chamber. That, for me, feels like a big main event.
Yeah,
whether it's Drew taking him out so that he's definitely not able, and then
I said on I think once the news that I think I might have said on last week's show, in fact, after the news that Seth was not going to be at the Chamber, I was like, this is the moment to build this entire show around those women's titles.
Yeah,
you build this show around Rhea versus Nia, which I actually think they've been doing a really good job with on TV, and you find a really good story for Io. On the SmackDown side of things, like this is the show to put them at the forefront.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's it for this show. Let's just end the poll and see what everybody thought of it. 71% thumbs up, with 26% in the middle.
That's about where I'm at. That split is, I think, good.
Yeah, I was actually 71%, 25. It's on the lower end.
3.5.
Yeah, it's kind of the lower end of Raw, which I think is probably about right. But I've enjoyed the show, and I thought the promos were very, very good. We're going to be back on Thursday with the Dynamite review. It's going to be Ollie Davis and Tempest doing the show, because I am elsewhere. More on that on Friday on partsFUNknown. Not even Dan knows where I'm going to be by the looks of things.
No, I don't.
I'll tell you in a minute.
All right.
We'll see you then. Take care, everyone. I've been going DAD. That has been Dan Layton. Congratulations on retaining the championship.
Oh my God, I'm having it cleaned because too many of you touched it.
Jam that jam.